The Minister of Information and Communication Technology, Honorable Dr. Peya Mushelenga, is undertaking a 3-day working visit to the Republic of Botswana as of today until the 9th of August. During the visit, Dr. Mushelenga will engage in constructive discussion with his counterparts, the Minister of Communications, Knowledge and Technology, and the Minister in the Presidency of the Government of Botswana. To bring us up to speed on the working visit is the Executive Director in the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Dr. Audrin Mathe. Dr. Mathe, good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good evening, Nina.
Dr. Mathe, just to start with, talk to us about the objectives of the Minister's working visit to Botswana.
Thank you. In the main, is that the two ministers have spoken since November last year to see how we can strengthen the relations between Namibia and Botswana. Already, we had this morning various ministers, how they express the confidence that they have in our head of state. The personal relations that exist between the two presidents has really cultivated the federal ground for all of us to feed into that agenda. The Minister of Information and Communication Technology, Dr. Mushelenga, has acted to fulfill that objective, partly to discuss issues regarding the SADC roaming charges that will harmonize the data charges across the region, such that even if you move from Namibia to Angola, Botswana, the SADC level, the roaming charges will be the same. But you know that it requires a number of SADC countries to act in order to fulfill that objective. So the two ministers have decided that we need to act bilaterally. To start that between Namibia and Botswana, your roaming charges must not affect where you are. Mm-hmm. So that's the premise of our accommodation. Also, the issue of providing infrastructure in the rural areas. Botswana have, the Minister of Communication here has informed our minister that they are looking to provide fiber to about 500 villages by the end of this year. This is a very good move, and we're hoping that from our end, we'll then have laid out infrastructure as well in the regions. Mm-hmm. As you know, the infrastructure in Namibia is primarily being provided by individual operators, your MTC operators, telecom, and so forth. But us as a government, given the experience that Botswana has, is to figure out how that we can do from our side to provide funding to ensure that you can't talk about digitalization if the rural areas are not connected. What we must look at is to ensure that even if you live in the most remotest part of the country, you should be able to do banking services. You should be able to access government services from any part of the country. That's two of the areas. But the larger issue is that Namibia is we're looking to table the data protection and the cybercrime. Botswana have some experience in some of these areas. We are hoping that we learn from there, then see how that can be implemented back home in Namibia. Mm-hmm. And the final area of accommodation also relates to how to provide access to information to the people. You know that President Gengop signed into law access information bill on the 28th of December. Now it puts us a lot of, there's a lot of responsibility on us, how that is going to be provided. Because information is not going to be a luxury, it will be something that people actually are entitled to by law. And this is really what will culminate in the end in a memorandum of understanding between the two countries. Obviously, we brought 3 of our public enterprises. The Crane, New Era, and NBC are here as part of the delegation of the minister. So that we must now feed into what our two presidents have already agreed. And it's us as functionaries to ensure that presidents, when they make a statement, it's actually policy. It's for us to figure out how that's going to be implemented, and we've done our part. As you know, Nina, who cross between Namibia and Botswana, you only require an ID. And I think that's a fundamental change that within the region, how many countries do that? So we're here to further those conversations.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Are there any specific agreements or MOUs that are expected to be signed during this visit, Dr. Mathe?
It will not be a MOU immediately now. The conversation is actually to map up a roadmap that will culminate in the signing of a memorandum of understanding. As you know, as two countries want to agree, for example, what does reduction of data charges mean between two countries? Once we agree that tomorrow, this is what is going to be included in a memorandum of understanding, so that it becomes a responsibility of each party to implement its side of the agreement. And also, our public media, they're working together also to draw up agreements that will create a framework within which they're going to be operating.
You mentioned earlier on in our conversation, Namibia and Botswana, spoke on areas such as roaming charges, the infrastructure in rural areas, and of course access to information for the public at large. I want to know, how does this visit, of course, it benefits both countries, but what is there that, Botswana can learn from us, in the areas of ICT?
In the early afternoon, we had met the Minister of State President, who is responsible for government communication. And then later afternoon, we met the Minister of Communication, Knowledge and Technology. They are keen how Namibia, they think we have some kind of magic wand somewhere hidden that we will keep being rated as top country in Africa with the freest press freedom. So they are very keen how that's working in Namibia. So we've shared our experiences with it. For one, is that we have a self-regulation. We don't always agree with self-regulation, but the fact that it serves a purpose in its own right, although it may not be the ultimate solution to our problems, that is something that we're living with now, and they've shown a keen interest. Also, they've shown interest to come to Namibia to come and see where the cable has landed, because Botswana is connected to Namibia through the WAX cable. So the Minister of Communication has expressed interest to come and visit our country. And with the sublet invitation, at some point in the future, we'll be able to host them again in Namibia. Then again, this is where I think a memorandum of understanding would have been signed at that occasion.
Dr. Mathe, just finally, what will the last few days of your working visit entail?
Obviously, tomorrow, the government of Botswana have organized for us to visit their data center. They have a national data center. We don't have that. That's one learning area for us. So they have organized some programs for us to do that. And then we'll be visiting the regulator. There are different ways which their operators different from, it's dissimilar to ours. For example, Prey in Namibia regulates everybody, whereas their equivalent of Crane here does not provide oversight of the public media. So we are keen to understand how that is going to be working. So we'll be visiting the regulator tomorrow. Thereafter, our visit has coincided with the program of their own. They have invited the minister on Wednesday morning to go to launch the connectivity, one of the rural areas that is going to be connected with fiber.
Dr. Mathe, thank you so much for your time this evening. All the best with the rest of your working visit, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed.
That was Dr. Audrin Mathe, the Executive Director in the Ministry of ICT, speaking to us from Gaborone, Botswana. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back.